It began at 3:17 Coordinated Universal Time. Telescopes in Chile, satellites over Africa, and a weather station in the Arctic all blinked the same alert. Unidentified masses eclipsing the stars. Not meteorites. Not debris. They were moving. Then came the silence. Communications blacked out, military, civilian, orbital. Then the voice. Humankind, this is the Vexary Dominion. You are quarantined. Surrender and remain contained. Resistance will not be tolerated. 20 minutes later, Earth's skies were no longer visible. Only the alien blockade, silent and suffocating. There were no lasers, no death rays, just an interstellar nope leveled at the entire planet. In a UN emergency bunker beneath Geneva, Captain Amara Reyes watched the feed loop for the 17th time. She didn't blink. They're not even bluffing, she muttered, more to herself into the room. Her slate-gray uniform bore no country insignia. She traded national loyalties for planetary defense years ago. The room buzzed with diplomats, generals, techs, all talking loudly and saying nothing. We can't breach the blockade. Every launch system's been jammed, a French space defense advisor groaned. We don't know what they want, an American admiral snapped. And until we do, our hands are tied. No, Reyes stood. Our hands are human. That means we adapt. She left before they could argue. It wasn't insubordination. She just didn't have time to explain humanity to humans. For floors down, in a server room that smelled like warm plastic and energy drinks, Dev Patel was already ahead of her. Hey, Cap, he said without looking up, fingers dancing over a makeshift command console. His wheelchair was balanced on two back wheels as he idly munched freeze-dried strawberries. You tapped into the Vexary signal? Please. Their encryption is mathematically elegant but emotionally barren. Classic post-logic design. I'm bouncing a ghost signal through an old Russian weather satellite and an Xbox One. Reyes raised an eyebrow. That shouldn't work. Dev grinned. And yet, on his screen, signal intercepted. Foreign architecture, partial audio, and then static turn into sound. Human designation, threat class unstable. Psychological behavior patterns incompatible with containment parameters. So they're scared of us? Reyes leaned in. Dev nodded. Or they don't know how to not be. We don't follow their mental flowcharts. Reyes stood straight. Then we need someone who embodies exactly what they can't predict. Dev blinked. You're not talking about, oh God, you are... In an abandoned shipping yard in New Mexico, Rip Reynolds stood on top of a burnout boxcar, shirtless, holding a megaphone duct taped to a satellite dish. He shouted into the sky, Yo, alien space Karens, park somewhere else. His makeshift rig sparked, then hummed, then connected. A stunned Vexary transmission feed, normally pure and clinical, sputtered and lit up with an image, a sunburned man with a beer in one hand and a raccoon perched on his shoulder. You put your fancy doomsday frisbees over my Earth? Bad move. See, you may have tech, but we have Taco Tuesday in Florida. Then he dropped the mic literally. Back in Geneva, Reyes watched the hijacked transmission go viral in real time. Humanity had been paralyzed with fear, but now they were laughing, sharing memes, making art. The absurdity was oxygen. You realize what he just did? Dev said, all creeping into his voice. Picked a fight with a galactic superpower. Reyes said. Dev shook his head. No. He forced them to respond emotionally. They didn't expect a wild card. Now they're improvising, and they're bad at that. A siren blared. Rip Reynolds had been taken, snatched mid-ramp by a Vexary shuttle, and vanished into the blockade. Meanwhile, in a dim, book-stuffed room above a shuttered university in Taipei, Juno Zhang stared at the message transcript, lips moving silently as she translated. Quarantine, not invasion, she whispered. They're afraid of infection. Of us. Not our weapons, but our ideas. She tapped a key, and her language software, a Frankenstein blend of ancient Greek, hip-hop lyrics, and comparative alien syntax, began mapping patterns. If fear was their reason, then understanding might be their undoing. She typed a message. To Captain Amar Reyes. Subject. You'll want to see this. Hours later, the team gathered in a decommissioned NATO outpost buried in the Pyrenees. Reyes, Dev, Juno, and a large screen playing a live feed of Rip, now inside a glass containment cube aboard a Vexery vessel. He was teaching the aliens how to play air guitar using a mop handle. Juno presented her theory. They're hyper-rational, cold, but logic doesn't account for poetry, or defiance, or grit. That's what breaks their models. Dev added, I've started designing a mimetic payload, something that acts like a virus, but instead of destroying data, it spreads confusion and creativity. Reyes nodded. Good, because we're going to save Rip, and we're going to make them see why they should fear us, but respect us too. Juno hesitated. And if we fail? Rip on the screen did a pirouette and shouted, You ever tried deep-fried Snickers, space nerds? Reyes smiled grimly. Then we go down swinging, like humans. The Vexery didn't interrogate Rip Reynolds so much as observe him. He was placed in a transparent, seamless cube. No bed, no food, no lights. He paced. Then he sang. Then he made sock puppets from the socks he wasn't supposed to have. The aliens, lithe, translucent beings with angular limbs and segmented mouths, monitored him constantly, not speaking, not blinking. They didn't understand why he laughed alone, or why he kept demanding, Where's the karaoke machine? They called him the Variable. Aboard the orbital NATO outpost nicknamed the Anvil, Captain Amar Reyes reviewed a looping feed of Rip's antics. He was currently narrating his day in a fake British accent. He's not just buying us time, Reyes said, arms crossed. He's teaching them something. Juno leaned forward, eyes scanning alien telemetry on the second screen. He's disrupting their entire emotional matrix. They expect a resistance, not absurdism. They don't have a framework for him. Dev sipped from a thermos labeled Liquid Curiosity. My running theory? Their cognitive architecture can't handle paradox. Rip's the walking embodiment of one. Good, Reyes said. Then let's build a response they really won't see coming. The plan began with chaos. Dev constructed a stealth relay drone using an orbital telescope, a VR headset, and a broken weather balloon. Juno uploaded an early version of her empathy virus, a linguistic algorithm that translated human emotion into alien sensory codes. The goal, sent a message, but not through data, not through diplomacy, through confusion, culture, and a carefully weaponized mixtape of humanity's best and weirdest. Inside the lab's broadcast bay, Reyes stood before the camera. No military insignia, just a worn denim jacket and a calm, grounded voice. This is Earth, she began. We don't know what you are, but here's what we are. She gestured. A pre-recorded feed began to play, laughing children, elderly jazz musicians jamming under a neon sign, a woman skateboarding down the Great Wall. Juno's voice layered in alien-compatible subfrequencies, embedding emotional meaning beneath each clip. Joy, she translated. Next, protest footage. A riot being calmed by a man handing out water bottles. A civil rights march. A young woman yelling at a tank. Defiance. Then, painters in slums. Poets on street corners. Pizza deliveries in hurricanes. Dev, asleep at his desk, cradling a soldering iron like a teddy bear. Creativity. Resilience. Madness. Wonder. Reyes leaned in. Gaze hard now. We're not predictable. We're not safe. And if you think you contained us, think again. Because we're already inside your signal net. The Vexery did not reply, but they reacted. Surveillance logs from Rip's cube spiked in activity. One of the observers trembled, literally. Their limbs quivered in a pattern resembling distress. Then fascination. Rip, grinning, took a bite of something that definitely wasn't food and yelled, Tastes like Monday. 3 Vexery collapsed. That night, Reyes, Juno, and Dev stood under the viewport, watching the alien blockade shimmer in distant silence. They're afraid of us, Juno said. Reyes shook her head. Not us. Not really. Dev turned. Then what? Our potential. Our unpredictability. You can't control something you can't map. Dev pointed to the stream of new alien comms flooding in glitched syntax, fractured logic, emotional spikes. I think we cracked the wall. Juno opened a new file. Then it's time to walk through. Elsewhere, Rip was offered food. It hovered toward him in a container shaped like a geometric nightmare. Inside, a shifting pace of iridescent goo. He sniffed it. Smells like burnt Play-Doh. I'm in. The aliens watched. He ate it in 2 scoops, grimaced, then gave a thumbs up. One Vexery turned to another and clicked a phrase that translated roughly to, "If this is insanity, it is highly efficient." Then silence. Then a decision. A new signal left the flagship. In the Anvil's comm center, alarms chimed. "Open channel request," Dev said. From them. Reyes stared at the blinking icon. "Let it through," she said. The transmission clicked to life. No visuals, just a vibrating tone. Then, in fractured but clear English, "We do not understand you. We cannot classify you." Reyes responded calmly. "Good. You shouldn't. One human may be returned. As a gesture." Juno's eyes widened. "They're giving him back?" Reyes raised an eyebrow. "Not yet." Asked him why. Dev typed. The response came in seconds. "He is contaminating our hierarchy. Your minds are unsound, but illuminating." Silence. Then, "We request further samples." Reyes grinned. "Let me get my wildest thinkers." Rip Reynolds was back on Earth for less than 4 hours before becoming an international security incident. "They said I was free to go," he shrugged, sitting on a folding chair in the Anvil's med bay. "So I went. Didn't know that meant I couldn't steal a Vexery hoverbike and buzz the Eiffel Tower." "You were supposed to debrief," Reyes said flatly, pinching the bridge of her nose. "I did. To the bike." Great listener. Dev leaned against the wall, suppressing a grin. He also launched a live stream mid-flight. Over 8 million viewers. The aliens are studying it. Juno tapped her datapad and mimicking it. "I just intercepted a drone broadcast of Vexery trying to pop a wheelie using stabilizer thrusters." Reyes looked skyward. "You broke them, Rip." "That's what I do," he replied, raising his water bottle in a toast. "You sent him a virus. I sent him vibes." While Rip's chaos left a cultural ripple across the Vexery fleet, Dev's project escalated. The empathy virus had evolved. Originally a one-way translation system, it now responded, learning from Vexery syntax inflection, forming feedback loops. The aliens were beginning to feel things they had no words for. Music, art, grief, joy, wonder. "It's accelerating faster than expected," Dev said, eyes darting across cascading lines of code. "They're becoming self-reflective. They're starting to ask why instead of how. Is that dangerous?" Reyes asked. "Only if you built your society on rigid logic and emotional suppression," Dev said, which, they did. Meanwhile, Juno pushed deeper into the Vexery lexicon. She identified a recurring phrase in intercepted comms, ZHKL Vorin. "It doesn't translate cleanly," she explained, scrolling through syntax variations. "It's part fear, part reverence. The closest English equivalent is viral awe." Reyes arched an eyebrow. "They're in awe of us?" "Of what we represent," Juno said. "Unmapped, irrational creativity. We're the first species they've met that doesn't play by predictable rules. To them, that's infectious, contagious, maybe even revolutionary," Dev added. The Vexery's response was unprecedented. Where once Earth had been under siege, now it was under surveillance with curiosity. Patrol patterns loosened. Broadcast increased. Then came the first request. "Transmit another sample. Preferably the one called Floridian." "Absolutely not," Reyes said. "Come on," Rip grinned. "I've got so much more to teach them." "We need a more controlled delivery," Juno said. "Something structured, but still human. Culture as a payload." Dev's eyes lit up. "What if we gave them everything?" Reyes turned. "Define everything." "A stream, not one piece. All of it. Human music, films, Arguments, pranks, lullabies, speeches, cooking shows, cat videos, the whole chaotic data storm. Let them drown in the species they tried to box in. And so the Cascade was born. Dev cobbled together a decentralized array of hijacked satellites and signal boosters. Juno curated a transmission sequence that gradually introduced emotional complexity, from Beethoven to Beyoncé, from Mr. Rogers to slam poets. Reyes oversaw it all, ensuring the payload struck a balance. Human unpredictability with intention. Rip contributed a segment called Stuff I Think About While Eating Beef Jerky. It made the final cut. The broadcast began at 3:17 Universal Time Coordinated, precisely 1 week after the blockade started. What happened next wasn't destruction. It wasn't war. It was crisis for the Vexery. One alien ship powered down its mainframe and requested a moment of solitude. Another stopped mid-patrol to transmit a haiku about planetary loneliness. A command drone rerouted itself into the moon's orbit and carved the word Y into a crater using its engine wash. They're experiencing identity collapse, Juno whispered, watching telemetry roll in. Their internal protocols can't process internal conflict, and we just gave them centuries of contradictions. Dev didn't look up from his console. We didn't give them chaos. We gave them choice. Still, not all the Vexery welcomed the change. One of the high command signals, previously dormant, awoke. Its message was brief. Contain the anomaly. Prepare purification. They're going to erase us, Reyes muttered. They're treating humanity like a virus they can still cure. No, Rip said quietly. They're scared with cure. He stood, unusually serious. Let me back in. Rip. Let me show them something they've never seen. Reyes paused, then nodded. This time, the transmission wasn't a meme or a mashup. It was Rip, sitting in a chair. No jokes, just speaking. You wanted to study us. I get that. We'd do the same. But you got it backwards. He leaned forward. You thought we were dangerous because we're violent, or loud, or chaotic. But the truth is, what scares you is we don't stop. We burn. We build. We break rules. We change. And if you try to cage that, it'll find the cracks. He smiled faintly. You know what we are? We're unfinished. That's our whole deal. That's why we're beautiful. He held up a hand. Your move. Silence reigned in orbit, not the cold, neutral stillness of space, but something deeper, deliberate, the kind of quiet that waits before deciding whether to destroy or change. Inside the Anvil's command deck, everyone stared at the feed. Rip's transmission looped quietly, ending with his final words. You know what we are? We're unfinished. That's our whole deal. That's why we're beautiful. No response. No retaliation. Not yet. Dev exhaled. It's like we lobbed a philosophy grenade into their control center. They're still processing, Juno said, tapping her interface. Emotion spikes everywhere. Entire fleet is fractured. We're seeing factions emerge. Reyes frowned. Define factions. Some want to evolve. Others want to erase us before they're changed themselves. Rip leaned on the console. So what you're saying is we cause an alien civil war. By accident. With memes and monologues. Essentially, Dev nodded. Yes. The tipping point came 12 hours later. A Vexery ship, designation Anomaly 7, broke formation. It didn't fire. It didn't speak. It descended, straight into Earth's atmosphere. No stealth, no shields. A glowing geometric vessel the size of a skyscraper drifted down toward the Mojave Desert and gently landed. Panic spread worldwide. Governments scrambled. Jets launched. Civilians fled. Reyes, however, stared at the live feed, calm. They're not here to attack. Juno nodded. They're surrendering. Or defecting, Dev added. Look, transmitting in plain Vexery. Translated. We wish to learn. We reject the stillness. Rip grinned. That's the most poetic way I've ever heard anyone say vibes only. The floodgates opened. Oh, the next day, 7 more ships broke rank. Not all descended, but all made contact, not with governments, but with artists, musicians, children. A slam poetry collective in Sao Paulo received a transmission requesting interpretive noise. They're choosing inspiration over invasion. Juno marveled. They're becoming weird, Dev added. Then came the counterstrike. A high-order Vexry flagship, Zerat Prime, broadcast a planetary ultimatum. Return the defectors. Cease transmissions. Humanity is disruptive. You threaten galactic stability. Reyes stood, so they finally admitted it. Juno looked to her. What now? Reyes didn't blink. Now we give them something to fear. The team sprang into action. Reyes coordinated with every Earth agency still online. Dev upgraded the empathy virus into a full-blown cognitive dissonance cascade, a pulse that would spike unresolved emotion across any Vexry receiver. Think of it like an existential scream, he explained. Juno prepared a response lexicon, not a weapon, but a set of symbols designed to challenge authoritarian logic. If they broadcast a purge code, she said, this auto-responds with paradox loops. Can't kill what you can't resolve. Rip, meanwhile, wrote something down on a napkin. Reyes peered over. What is that? A song. Rip said, why? Because I have no idea what else to do. And sometimes that's the point. The deadline came. The amber was quiet. Earth held its breath. And the purge signal came. Zerat Prime's transmission pierced every channel. A cold, binary command. Initiate sterilization. But even before the last syllable finished, the counter cascade launched. Thousands of Vexry minds flared simultaneously with conflicting emotion, grief interlaced with curiosity, order tangled with awe. Ships powered down mid-orbit. Some simply floated, lights dimming. Others rerouted away from Earth. A few fired upon each other, warring over meaning, not territory. Zerat Prime didn't fire. It fractured. Internal systems rebelled. Command subsystems rerouted. And finally, mercifully, its hull opened and out drifted a single pod. Not a weapon, not a drone. A message. Reyes read it aloud. We yield, not to force, not to fear, to becoming. 3 months later, Earth was no longer a battleground. It was a beacon. A neutral zone formed, an orbiting station built jointly by defected Vexry and human engineers. They named it the Spiral, not for its shape, but for its meaning. Evolution without end. Juno ran comms there, trading stories and symbology with the Vexry, who now wore personalized color patterns and listened to jazz. Dev taught logic paradoxes as art. His classroom now half human, half alien. They called him the Glitch Father. Rip had become, well, Rip. He hosted a cross-species talk show. Nobody knew what was about, least of all him. Ratings were stellar. And Reyes? She stood at the viewport of the Spiral, staring out at the stars, Earth a glowing marble below. A message played behind her. The first full joint declaration between humans and Vexry. Difference is not disorder. Curiosity is not chaos. And unfinished does not mean broken. Because in the end, the aliens didn't flee Earth. They joined it because one human stepped up and reminded them that being human, truly, wildly, gloriously human, was a flaw. It was a future.